Hi there, it's Miss Southam again, and here is Chapter 7 of Michael Morpurgo's Kaspar, Prince of Cats. Chapter 7. We've only gone and hit a flaming iceberg. My life as a stowaway didn't last long. It took me a while to understand that I was in the first class part of the ship, and when I did, I discovered it wasn't at all easy to blend in with the first class passengers all around me. Everyone was in their travelling finery and dressed as I was in my uniform of a Savoy bellboy. I stuck out like a sore thumb. They even moved differently, as if they belonged there, as if they had all the time in the world. Maybe you need a lifetime to learn how to look nonchalantly wealthy. For a while the uniform actually helped. I could pass myself off as a steward, and of course that was easy enough for me. I knew well enough how to touch my forelock, how to help old ladies down the stairs, how to point out people where to go, even if I hadn't had a clue where anything was. For the first hour or so, as the other passengers promenaded the deck, exploring the ship, that was what I did too, until I began getting some strange looks from some of the crew and other stewards who clearly thought my uniform a bit strange. I knew sooner or later that I'd be rumbled, that my luck couldn't hold out for long, as if I went on pretending to be one of them. I also realised that if I stayed in first class, I was bound to bump into one of the Stanton family, and I wasn't at all sure how they would respond if they discovered that I'd stowed away. I could see the steerage passengers all crowded round the lower deck at the stern of the end of the ship. There were more of my own kind, I thought. I'd be safer there. So that's where I headed. I took off my tunic and cap, and when no one was looking, dropped them over the side. Then I vaulted over the rail and tried to mingle in amongst the steerage passengers as best I could. We were all out to sea by now, the last of England fast disappearing over the horizon. The sea was flat calm, like a silver blue lake. No one was paying me any attention. They were all enjoying themselves far too much to know I was even there. You only had to use your eyes and ears to know that these steerage passengers came from all over the world. There were Irish, Chinese, French, Germans, Americans, and quite a few London Cockneys too. I was feeling much more at home already. I went below deck, and after a long search at last found myself an empty berth in the dormitory at the bottom of the ship. There were a few men in there, but they paid me little attention. I was lying down, my hands behind my head, my eyes closed, the ship's engines throbbing through me, believing absolutely I had gotten away with it, and everything went badly wrong. I heard voices, loud voices, voices of authority. I opened my eyes and saw two sailors coming through the dormitory. "We're looking for a stowaway. Have you seen him? He's kind of Japanese-looking fellow." One of them stopped by a table where some men were sat playing cards. "Has he come through here? Little fellow he is. We all know he's down here somewhere." I think I would have been fine if I hadn't panicked. I could have just pretended to be asleep. I didn't look Japanese. They wouldn't have bothered me. But I didn't think. I got up and ran, and they came after me, hollering at me to stop. I took the stairs to the deck, 3 at a time. Once up there, I hid in the first place I found. Of course, it was the most obvious, and therefore the most stupid place I could ever have chosen. A lifeboat. Inside, I saw a Japanese man sitting at the far end, knees drawn up under his chin, rocking back and forth and gnawing at his knuckles. And that was where, only minutes later, the two of us were discovered, caught like rats in a trap. We were not treated at all kindly, as we were hustled along the decks, but at least I felt we had the sympathy of the steerage passengers. All the booing and jeering seemed directed more at our sailor escorts than at us. Both of us were taken before the captain. Captain Smith he was called, and there were 3 other men there already. So there were 5 of us in all stowaways. An Italian, I remember, who spoke very little English, the Japanese man, and 3 Englishmen, myself among them. From behind his desk the captain looked at us wearily out of his deep-set, sad eyes. With his great beard and calm bearing, he looked every inch a sea captain. He didn't curse us or berate us as all the sailors had. "Well, Mr. Lightoller," he said to the officer standing beside him, "so we've got 5 of them, have we? Not as many as I'd feared. What should we do with them, then? What do we need them most, would you say?" "Down below in the engine room, Captain," he offered reply. "Stokers. We're short of a dozen stokers at least, and if you want to make full speed, as you say, if you want to make the crossing in record time, as you say, then we could do with them down below. Look at them. I'd say they're a bit on the thin side and spindly. There's nothing they can do about that." The captain looked right at me. "Why did you do it?" he asked. I told him the truth. Part of it, anyway. I had nothing to lose, because I didn't want to leave the ship. "Sir, she's so beautiful, and everyone says she's fast too. I've never been on a ship before." "Well, I have, son," laughed the captain. "Dozens of them. And you're right, this one is fast, the fastest ship that ever sailed, and what's more, she's unsinkable too. Very well, Mr. Lightoller, you will set these men to work their passage to New York as stokers. It will be hot work and hard, gentlemen, and for this you will be fed and looked after well enough. Take them away." So began the hardest 3 days I had ever worked in all my life. My body never ached so much. Every bone, every muscle, every joint. My hands never bled so much either. Open blisters on every finger. I was never so hot and dirty, never so completely and utterly exhausted. The stokers about me were strong men, big men, muscle-bound and sinewy. Stripped to the waist as we were, I felt like a sparrow amongst eagles. The pounding thunder of the engines in my ear was deafening. The blast of the furnaces scorched my skin. But for all this discomfort, I somehow found it the most exciting and invigorating place I had ever been. Every time I looked up and saw those great boilers, those great pistons driving, I marvelled at them, at the power and the